Good day, strategy gamers, and welcome back to episode 11 of our Let's Play series, 1941 scenario as the Soviets. In this episode, we're going to be going through the air execution phase of turn 5 and the first half of our ground movement phase. We might split turn 5 up into 3 episodes again. I want to see kind of how far we can get in this episode and the next. But I'm trying to balance between having... Is it a better sweet spot for a 45-50 minute video each time, or 2.5 hour videos? So we'll figure all that out. But right now, what we're going to do is go over our plans for the air phase. So when we look at the weather report, I'm really encouraged by the fact that we still have muddy conditions here across much of the front line that the Germans are trying to make their way through. Now, it is only light mud, so that's less than ideal, but it still has an impact and is really to our benefit. Unfortunately, in the next turn, it doesn't get any worse. It just kind of stays the same. And the reason for that is that in this current turn 5 that we're in, all across the front line, the weather condition is raining, right? So it's blanketing the entire front, which should also then negatively impact their offensive ability. The following turn is going to be really tough, though, for us because we see that they're actually, the sky's clear, right? So if their air armies have moved up to the front, they're going to be much more involved. They're going to be more on the offensive. So this turn is probably going to be a little bit of a breather for us compared to what we're going to face in turn 6 because of how the weather conditions have changed. And I think you can see when you look across the front line some of the impact that this is having on the Axis player, because there is a number of situations where they're a little weaker, right? 7, 3, 4, 5, 7, 3, 4, 3, right? It just across the front line, they're not quite as strong as they were in turn 1, which makes sense. That's just a natural progression of things. Also, it's worth noting that for a lot of these, right, they're probably taking, say, their infantry divisions and splitting them up, right? So you see this is simply a third of the 58th Infantry Division, which is why it only has an attack value of 4. And the German player is going to need to do this throughout the scenario, simply given the vast difference that existed even historically between the Soviets and the Axis powers, because the Soviets got up to, what was it, like 380 divisions by the end of 1941 or something like that, whereas the German high command estimates, I think, said that they'd have like at most 280 or something like that. I can't remember the exact numbers, but they just so vastly outnumbered the Axis powers. Now, the trade-offs there, right, were the surprise, the logistics, the efficiency, the training of the troops, etc., etc. All of that context aside, when we're considering our own air war, I am going to still run some air missions, simply because at this phase in the war, even if we suffer higher operational losses because of the rain conditions, I need to do everything I can to slow them now. Not 1 month from now, not 2 months from now. I need to slow them down now, because the more time I buy now to fortify my defensive lines, the harder it will be for the Axis player in the fall of 1941. So we're going to still run the air interdiction missions, and I've done this off camera, but I've set up air interdiction ground attack missions across the Peskov front here, a couple down by Smolensk, and then in the southern frontier, kind of between Kiev and Odessa. So have a couple of those going, also using the AI assist for a lot of the other administrative stuff when it comes to the air war. And we're going to go ahead and just execute everything for the air directives, which will then simulate what's happening. We'll get into the ground phase. So here you see there's those ground attacks I was talking about that are adding interdiction values to the Axis logistics and transportation costs. So by day 2, we've now run about 1,500 sorties, which is quite significant. And you see that almost all of our losses are operational, which are dramatically increased because we're flying in poor weather. Now, if you've watched my other series of Stalingrad to Berlin, you'll find that when it is poor weather, I generally am much more conservative. But the situation that you find yourself in that scenario is different. You're trying to find out how to best optimize your offensive counterpunches to the Axis player to make it quickly to Berlin. So it's a different situation you find yourselves in. We end up with 3,500 sorties, a total of 163 airframes lost operationally, 40 to flak, so about 200 net. So pretty high losses, but for causing interdiction to the enemy, and maybe we can take a look here real quick at this. So you see all these hexes, right, that we had this air interdiction running. Hopefully that does then some of these, I hope. Yes, like here, this hex now has an air interdiction value of +1. Here they're +2, +1, +1. So that's really going to then impact the Axis player as they try to get supplies to their front line, make movements, etc. Back to our ground combat, though. In the previous turn, they did not push as aggressively north of Peskov as I thought they may have. But you see we do find a few situations here where we have to start looking at, okay, probably need to pull back in some of these areas just a little bit. As much as possible, I don't want to give up this kind of breach here by Lake Ilmen. I'm fine with retreating south and north of Lake Ilmen and using it as a pivot, but I don't want to give up these hexes too early, right? I also don't want these infantry divisions to become completely enveloped, and then we have a different problem to deal with. So we're going to work our way north to south, much like we do in other episodes, just to try to, in a structured way, approach everything that's going on. And it's worth noting that in the previous turn, we had actually moved up a number of units to the Leningrad front. Here we have a rifle division on train that we're going to take off. So we have some units that we can probably move south to help fortify the defensive line before they even get to the city gates, right? So let's start over here. We just have this 2,000-man rifle regiment. I'm going to send them, I think, here. Let me think about this. Oh, we'll have them cross, actually. No, we're going to have them stay right there. They're not going to come through the swamp here. They're probably going to follow the road and the rail. And it is a couple of hexes that are better terrain by doing so as well. And 2,000 men isn't going to make a material difference to the defense here. So I think that what this unit might do is it might give us one extra turn before they cross the Narva River. So we're going to let them stay right where they're at. Down here, I'm actually pretty happy, and I'm going to leave a lot of these units kind of where they're at, right? So like these defensive values, 3, etc. I'm pretty good with how that all turned out. In some of these areas, I might, for example, move up this infantry division to help reinforce this hex a little bit. Here, this rifle division is just depleted, so we're going to send them back to Leningrad and set them on refit status. Actually, I'm going to move them here to help with the fortification efforts by adding labor. This HQ unit is just a little bit, let's see, they're a little bit further away from the front than I'd like. We don't have any depots between here, so it's not going to be too impactful of which hex it's in. They're getting all of their supply from up here. So I think I'm just going to move the HQ unit a little south to keep these guys in range. Okay. We did a lot of reorganization of the various armies and such in the previous episode. And like here, we have 11th Army with units that are all the way over here in Smolensk. So obviously we still have some opportunity with how we did everything here. And they're part of the Northwestern Front. which that's not necessarily an issue that they're part of the Northwestern Front. It's just that they're that far away from Smolensk. So let's maybe see if we can get you on the train down there. Yeah, so let's do that. We're not going to be able to unload you this turn, but that's fine. And the Northwestern Front, I'm actually going to move them. We'll just kind of gradually do this. We're going to move them here for now. I want to move them a little further south because really where this was positioned is all kind of Leningrad Front territory. Right? This is all the domain of the Leningrad Front. Take off my supply icons there. Okay. And then we're going to, yes, this guy is refit successfully. We can take him off refit. We're going to start positioning ourselves for building this defensive line here that goes north of Lake Ilmen. I'm not going to completely give up the direct path to Leningrad, but I want to start to do a bit of a pivot where as they approach these forces and as they start to retreat, they start to fall back in this direction and to Leningrad. I don't want to get units caught up over here. Right? That's not going to be so great if that happens. Let's bring you a little closer here. Probably even bring you down there to that city. The air command, you can just go there. This mechanized unit, we're going to let's add them up here and set them on refit status. So again, it's adding labor to help with building of the fortifications. I think ultimately what we'll want to do is like this rifle division, we're going to move them north here to help defend that hex as well. This rifle division, I think we will move them here. And that HQ can't move, none of the units there can move. What I would like to do is get in like an infantry division or something there. Here we have a Leningrad militia. So obviously we're just going to assign them probably to the, let's see. Let's do the Neva operational group army. Let's have them go up here, start fortifying in that hex. And we'll probably end up adding, before they get to the city proper and such, we'll probably add 2 infantry divisions or something to Leningrad itself. But for now, I want to start building out the defensive perimeter that we have here. Looking back down here again, these guys are all great. I really like how they're all situated. I'm going to leave him in front. Again, soften them up before they get to this line. He can retreat back. It gives these guys one more turn then likely to be able to defend themselves. It's just, it's looking good. On reflection, I think I'm going to take like this unit that already is unready. We're going to take them back. Set them to a refit status, and probably next turn then have them move over here, or again join the defense of Leningrad. But really, right, that was offering the exact, or excuse me, that rifle division was offering the exact same defensive value as the security division here, which is 1,400 men. And these 2 units both equally will slow down the enemy as they approach, but this is where we're going to be most vulnerable of having ourselves cut off from the rest of our units. So we're going to leave all of that as is. I'm actually feeling pretty happy with the north of the Peskov frontier. The question, I think, becomes what do we do around Novgorod and how we defend that area? And when it comes to that, I'm wondering if we take this hex right here which is Smolensk. And so it actually does have some logistical importance. If we take off the hexes here, yeah, because this is kind of the crossroad. Right now, I mean, we have a rail line going north-south that's connected here, which is, of course, beneficial. I think we'll probably leave this as is. My worry is I want to be able to defend this hex better as it approaches to the south of Lake Ilmen. So let's maybe take one of these units and move them south to help here. Unfortunately, it's going to exhaust them because it is within zone of control of their infantry unit right now. So let's instead take one of these guys. We'll move them up to help a little bit. It's not much, but at the very least now they don't even have 2-to-1 odds if they just attack with what is there today. Yeah. This airborne unit, I'm actually just going to pull back. And I think what I will do is... Let's see. Pull him back here, maybe. Yeah, 4. That's good. This guy can pull back. I think... have you actually go to the town of Staria Russa. But really, we're looking at this objectively. The better spot to hold is right here. It's across a river, it's a heavy forest. The difference is we forfeit this airbase here. Maybe it would just be better that ultimately this is the hex we end up holding. And begin the line down like this. That might make more sense next turn. Okay. I think we'll leave these guys as is. They're still in light woods. We got 1 fortification level here. I do think, though, I will take... No, I'm going to leave the HQ there. That's fine. Over here, we're good. We're going to kind of hold this line that we have. Do I maybe retreat you? It's in pretty good terrain, right? Rough terrain. Or is it better to fall back to this position here? I think I will leave them right where they're at. No, you know what? They're unready. So we're going to try to delay our engagement. So we're going to pull them back. Okay. So there's that. So we've pretty much done the entire Peskov pocket now, Lake Ilmen pocket. We're now moving south of Lake Ilmen. And we have a lot of questions to answer here because we did get pushed back around Smolensk and this area. And I think what we have to do is make sure we establish ourselves a defensive line here and shuffle down some forces to help defend Smolensk. Well, specifically the northern flank of Smolensk, right? So we've got a couple units that are routed. We actually have, looks like, 5 on screen here that were routed. So, I mean, that's not so great. And they're really, really depleted. It's like I'm actually going to set this guy on his HQ unit and set him to a refit status. This guy I'm also going to set to a refit status. This unit, same thing. We'll set them on the HQ, set them to refit. It's mechanized division. Just going to pull them back 1, set them to refit. Where are these guys all? Well, they're all allocated to the Northwestern Front specifically. Okay, so I'm even going to move the Northwestern Front even further south, I think. Now, I mean, the answer is not to keep these guys as part of the Northwestern Front, but maybe we'll do that. If we do 3 episodes, I might do one again, just trying to clean all of this stuff up, because really I should be getting these guys attached to, say, the 27th Army that's right here nearby. But but I don't want to detract from the decision making of, hey, how are we going to defend our front line, right? So let's get these 2 rifle divisions off the train. So now we have a really, really strong presence here in Veliki Luki, which is good because Veliki Luki is very important to our defensive position here. I mean, it is critical, make no mistake about it. This tank division, I wonder if you are now ready to go off a refit. You are not, because you have no tanks. You have some cavalry tanks, but that's all. What else do we have back here? That rifle division is unready. They probably found themselves retreating. So we'll set them on refit on the HQ. These tank divisions are on refit as well. I'm guessing same situation. Yeah, they have no tanks. So that puts us in a bit of an interesting position. These 2 rifle divisions are both unready. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move you to your HQ unit and set you on refit. I'm going to do the same thing with you, which now obviously opens up a bit of a hole here in our line. We're going to take this infantry division, and we're going to have them come south here. And then I'm going to have, okay, so like this guy I'm just going to fix right now. There's no reason for him to be part of Stavka. We'll have him join the 27th Army. We're going to have him come back to... Actually, I'm wondering if I continue making a bit of a stand here on this rough terrain, but I think I need to cover the holes in my line first. There we go. So they could theoretically break through here and cause some trouble, but I don't think they will because they're passing through my zone of control, and it's exhausting a lot of movement points to just face potential isolation themselves. This unit, the unready one, I'm going to now pull back. And so a lot of these decisions we had made when we were sitting in a position of we need bodies at the front line now, right? That's when a lot of these decisions were made. Now we can kind of pull some of them back and say, okay, take a moment, get into refit status, start building up your defensive position. This guy is going to be the same story that I'm going to do with him, where I'm going to pull him back here, set him on refit. This guy's on reserve, that's fine. Leave him there, I think. Does feel like maybe I should have a unit here. You're ready, you're full strength. Let's have you come up. There we go. There we go. So that's going to be very tough for them to break through. The question is, how do we solve here, right? So I think we need to start looking at how we do that. And let's just... Oh, I don't think I can't take you off the train because you're the army that I just moved. So really what we need is we need some units that can get down here to Smolensk and deploy right here north of Smolensk. That's really what we need. Let's maybe take one of these rifle divisions. Let's take the one that's unready. Have them go up here. I'm going to set them to a refit status for now. This tank division needs to desperately pull back. Do that, and we're going to set you to a refit status. You are on train for some unknown reason. Probably because I couldn't see you there in the city. Let's have you come back here. I'm going to set you on reserve to try to help if they do try to break through here. All of these guys were on reserve. But now I need to pull them back. There we go. And I think I need to just forfeit this position right here. Ah, do I though? I think I do. because they're about to break through right here and cut a hole in our line. So let's switch over here for a minute. Let's pull you back to the swamp hex, right? You were routed, so let's get you in the rear and on refit. Oh, what happened? There you go. I think you can stay right where you're at. Same with you. You, though, I need to pull back. And let's have you go right here. Need to get more defensive up here, I feel. Just take that rifle division to the north. And then you will bring here. So we've got 7, 11, 8, 11. Smolensk itself is over 100. 11, 2, 14. Right, so obviously this is the weak point right now. I think it will be okay, though. Yeah, it's not an easy situation. Now, it's important to remember that we chose to bring in all of our reserve reinforcements to our Yol, and really the game plan is to deploy them all along this stretch right here, kind of this inverted backwards C shape, or crescent moon, if you will, is where all of these guys are going to go. So maybe what we do is some of these units we do look at pulling back to help with the defense of Smolensk. Or do I? Like, do I just leave that guy there? Yeah, you know, I think I pull him back. Because at present, he can be attacked by 3 hexes. Now he can't be attacked. At most, he can be attacked by 1 unless they break down one of these sides. And both of these flanks, they only have 1 hex bordering. So they have to do some maneuvering if they want to be able to break through there. Oh, you're unready. 11,000 men. That's interesting. Do you have support units assigned to you, and that's why? I don't know what's going on there. But we're going to leave that as is. You are also on ready. Let's just set you to refit, and heck, you can just stay there for now. You can also go to refit. Actually, let's move you back here. Okay. Mechanized division. Are you still needing refit status? It doesn't look like it. Looks like you're good. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how you're... The thing is, you're missing the 244 cavalry tanks, which were pretty damn ineffective at this point in the war. Yeah, we'll let them stay another turn on refit, and then this tank division. And they have no tanks. Problem, right? This mechanized division, what are you sitting at? You are also missing 224 cavalry tanks, which, again, I don't see as a huge loss. So I think this mechanized division I'm going to set to reserve. Okay. This HQ unit I need to just move back from the front line a little. Okay. I can take you off the train. And let's have you come up here. Right, depth, layers, that's kind of what we're going for with there. You are in poor supply, which is unfortunate. We're going to move you down here to this heavy forest, heavy woods. Let's take now this one. Both unready. Jeez. Yeah, let's move you up here. Set you to a refit status. Hoping they don't break through and attack him next turn. You're in swamp, we'll have you set to refit. Again, I'm kind of hoping the same thing. They're not able to break through that far right in one turn. This rifle division is unready, so we'll bring them here, set them to refit, and we'll leave the airborne brigade there to try to slow them down. And you see, look at that reconnaissance we got, it's indicating that these units are all out of supply. These mechanized units are all out of supply. So I'm hopeful, I'm very hopeful, that means in the following turn, they're not going to be able to break through. And if they don't break through this turn, it should give our reinforcements from Ariol enough time to fortify themselves to build up this defensive front. That's certainly the hope here. Set you to refit this airborne brigade. I'm going to bring back here and do the same. That rifle division. I think at this point I'm just going to fall back and say, okay, go through some swamp. That's your call. Move him back here. You see we had this rifle division surrounded. And that's kind of what I want to avoid, right? Is I want to avoid situations like that. This airborne unit, we're going to move back here. This rifle division will move down to the swamp hex. The HQ we will move back. And it's just getting a little hairy down here. Alright, I need to focus back on Ariol. I think what we will do is, based off of our timing here, I think we probably will split this out to 3 episodes again. But we'll see how the next episode goes. So I'm going to deploy all of these units here from Ariol, make sure they're all positioned correctly, and then next turn we will finish up the ground movement, ground combat phase of those types of actions, because we have a lot to do south by Odessa to try to evacuate these units before they get cut off so they can help with the defense of the Crimea. And then we'll also... We'll either try to go back and do things like reserves being called up and the administrative work, or we'll try to do 3 episodes. We'll see. But let's get back to this. So the first thing I want to do is say, okay, the units with the most movement points, let's move you first to try to say, okay, let's populate the furthest reaches of our defensive line, right? So, like this guy... I think I'm going to move him all the way up here. Right, because he has the movement points to do that. This guy only has 10. So I think we'll move him here. You have 10. Let's have you come up here, I think. You're on the south half of Ariol. So I'm going to say, all right, let's have you come as far south as we can kind of realistically get you to help make sure we don't have too much of a gap in our line here. These guys both have 10s. Like, I really want to move one of them into these heavy woods here. This guy has 10 as well. I think I'm going to move him down here. Ten again. Because they're on the south side, I'll probably move them over here. You have 11. Let's have you come up here. A general rule, by the way, if you didn't know, as much as possible, always try to avoid pushing your unit to exhausting all of their movement points, because it dramatically increases the amount of fatigue they take in that turn. But again, given the extreme situation that you find yourself in as the Soviet player in 1941, sometimes you just have to. It's just a bit of a necessity sometimes. So that's why we're making some of these decisions. I think we'll start to have some of these guys move a little south. I may even dare say, like, let's have you just go to Kursk and start fortifying there. This guy's low supply. Move up here. Come down here to the swamp. Move you south. Again, trying to get some of these guys in position too for the next turn to be able to help out the defense in the south here of Bryansk. Okay. And then I think what I'm going to do is this stack right here, I'm going to move up into reserve to help defend Bryansk proper. And then the rest of these guys, I'm going to move north of Bryansk to try to help with the defense of making sure we don't have Smolensk encircled from the, what would it be, the southeast of the city. So let's have some of you guys come up here. You can go there. No, I'm not going too far north, but on some of these I did just want to get in a position here. This entire stack we're just going to do pretty much to the north, so the next turn they can try to populate some of these areas. Alright, you can come up here. You see that now I'm making some decisions only to go to where I go to within one of these movement points, left, right, and the reason for that is the places I'm moving these units to will not be the final place they stay in, so I don't necessarily care about them getting all the way to the destination in this one turn, right? That's the logic there. Here we have this tank division on refit. I'm doubting you're good to go. Yeah, you have no tanks effectively. So we'll just have you stay in Ariol. These guys we're going to start moving up. And again, this will just kind of be the reserve block behind Bryansk. But next turn we can take a look at the situation and say, where do these three divisions go? Excellent stuff. Yes, you know, that's looking pretty good. You can just see kind of the density of population of units that we now have defending the Bryansk forest line that's north-south. The areas in which I still have the most concern, though, after having done all the moves this turn, is kind of this pocket in between the Bryansk front and Smolensk, and the same thing here between Smolensk and, say, Veliki Luki, of them breaking through. The only kind of solace that I am still maintaining is it seems like they're very low supply. It doesn't seem like they're ready for a full offensive this turn. Could be wrong. I know that it's late mud. I know that it's raining. So I think I have myself another turn to get into some of these really defensible positions around Smolensk. The other area that I'm really kind of thinking about is right here south of Lake Gilman, of whether or not we're going to be able to hold them another turn, or if they're going to be able to break through. And if they do break through, it's not necessarily that they're going to get victory points that much sooner, because there aren't any very strategic cities right here. It's more so that I don't want to give up very defensible terrain, right? We are right now at the furthest edge of this very defensible terrain that really we should make them pay when they try to take it, because it's heavy woods, it's swamps, We just need to get men there is the issue right now. And the Peskov front, as I said, feeling really good about that. And Leningrad is already starting to look like a bit of a fortress. The question is going to be, can we successfully execute kind of this door pivot I've been describing of Novgorod north to Leningrad, and swinging these units back to form that defensive line? That's the next question at hand. And how do we do that without letting them just drive due north to Leningrad and immediately reach it? Right? We want to make them pay for some of these hexes, like this block, this line that we have right here. Really encouraged by this entire sector being very secure right now. Where I think the Axis player is going to have the most success is probably isolating this naval unit, the security unit, maybe the units we have here along the Narva. But really these units are the sacrificial ones. I do not anticipate having them when it comes to the defense of Leningrad or further east. So it's the infantry divisions I want to keep closest to that door hinge to rotate back into a more defensive line. And then next turn, as I mentioned, we're going to kind of start where we left off here, just west of Kursk, go all the way through the front down to Odessa, and we need to try to rescue these units so they don't get cut off. You see that we've already had a couple that have become encircled that we haven't retreated quickly enough, and I worry about this pocket right here. There's a great opportunity for them in the next turn to say, yeah, these guys are going to drive north, these guys are going to drive south, and then call it a dozen divisions I will then have, again, isolated. And as the Soviet player, that is what you cannot let happen. Because if I lose these 12 elements, there is nothing in between the Axis player and these strategic cities. And already look at how concerned I am of this unit has nothing between it and Stalino or Stalingrad. This unit right here, there is nothing between it and those cities. So I have a lot of work to do in the next turn of how am I going to solve for this. And I think part of it is going to be taking select units from this Kiev pocket and starting to kind of sneak them out a little and shuffle down the line some units. I think will be the strategy we'll use. And I also think that it's already looking pretty apparent that in turn 6, we will probably have our reserve units deployed to the South Theater. Probably to Dnipropetrovsk. I butchered that. I had practiced just a little bit, thought I'd give it a try, and the landing did not stick. But may deploy units right here to start building this defensive pocket before they reach Stalino and such, and really try to defend the Dnieper River, right? Because as we talked about, this is all open terrain for panzers to roll across. It's the river and the swamps here that are going to be the most defensible. So, lots to do, guys. Having a blast. Glad you're joining me for the journey. Thank you so much for watching the video, the series, and your continued support. You got questions, comments, or feedbacks, toss them down in the video comment section below. And as always, strategy gamers, hoping you have yourselves an excellent day. Bye now.